Hey, it's Jordan Sheridan, live here in Michigan. I have been here for a few days. Just released a pretty long piece that I worked on for a couple months that I believe clearly shows that a lot of suspicious science has been used to declare Flint's water, restored. The governor said, Governor Snyder said, restored when he shut down the water pods. And if you read the piece, the link to that piece is right here in the description box. The piece actually starts with this wonderful young lady, Nakia Wakes. We spoke here in 2017 at a coffee shop where you were describing the first set of miscarriages you had, and I didn't know that months later you had more miscarriages. So I wanted to just backtrack so people know who you are. You and your kids moved to Flint in 2013.
Yes. Me and my daughter and son moved here in 2013, and actually it's been here about 4.5, almost 5 years now.
Yeah. And when you moved here, obviously they switched the water in 2014, but
Right.
you,
When I moved here, I still noticed when we ran the water how the water would like run out brown. But I was thinking I just moved into this house, so I was thinking that it's probably rusted pipes or whatever. But it was like a foul smell also. I mean, this happened when I first moved here. When I come out the shower, I would like break out in hives, bumps all over, and every time I would go to Hurley, they would give me forgot the name of it, but they said that I had allergic reaction. So they were giving me Benadryl. So I'm like, the Benadryl will stop the itching, but no sooner than I get in the water again, break out with these bumps and rashes all over again. So I'm like, it's got to be something in the water.
was that before the water switch?
Yes, that was before the water switch. That was when I first moved down here in 2013. I started noticing that. So I found out I was pregnant in 2015. And I started having complications from the day that I found out that I was pregnant. I stayed going back and forth to the emergency room, stayed with complications, and I ended up having a miscarriage. And when I went back for a follow-up with my OB doctor, they were like, they got a heartbeat. So I'm like, wait a minute, Hurley just told me that I miscarried. Now you're telling me that there's a heartbeat. And that's when they gave me an ultrasound, and there was 2 sacs. So it was two babies, which I didn't know until they got the second heartbeat. And so I thought the second baby would be my miracle baby and that baby would make it. But 2 months and a week into my second trimester, I ended up losing the second baby.
And at the time, you were sorry to blow up your spot, but you were 40 at that time,
Yeah.
and the doctors kind of, I guess, seemed to be kind of dismissive that it wasn't because of lead or anything like that.
Yes, they weren't trying to say that it was the water, even though every time I went to the emergency room, I told them, look, every time I get into this water, I break out. Y'all keep giving me Benadryl, it stops the itching, but no sooner than I get into the water, I break out again. Then I started noticing my daughter's hair was falling out. I never did really notice nothing with my son because he's always in the tub. He never wants to get out, but for some reason, nothing really happened to him besides the behavior and stuff.
And they were trying to tell you that you probably miscarried because you were 40 and
Yeah, they were trying to tell me that I'm like too old and that my eggs are old, but my mom has had my little sister at the age of 45, so I know I'm not too old. Plus, they're not God. You can't put an age limit on who can and cannot have babies. I know somebody 50 that had a baby, so I don't believe that. I really do believe that this water from us consuming all of this stuff, that is what caused my miscarriages. And I do believe that I cannot have children anymore because this was in 2015 when I miscarried the first twins. Then in 2017, a week before my birthday, I miscarried twins again. So it's like I don't even think that I can carry babies anymore because of consuming all of this lead and heavy metals and other bacteria that was up in this water that they're not even really talking about. Okay, yeah, they're trying to say that the lead is out and that this water is fine, but they're not even telling the citizens and the residents and anyone else about all of the other heavy carcinogens and bacteria that's in the water also.
And you you had two children to term. You have a 19-year-old. You have a 9-year-old.
10 years apart at that.
Yeah.
To term. 10 years apart. So I don't believe nothing about my eggs are too old. I just don't believe that. It was the water.
And also, like putting aside Flint, women are giving birth later and later. You see women giving birth in their 40s. Obviously, there's more risk when you get pregnant in your 40s, but at the end of the day, every study shows if you consume a lot of lead, it puts you at great risk for miscarriages.
Right. And then also, I'm 40. It's like if I was at that much of risk, I wouldn't keep getting pregnant with not one but two babies. If I was at that much of a risk, how could I keep producing twins instead of one baby? I really do believe that it was the water. And plus, there has been so many miscarriages, and some babies have died because of the switch from this water crisis.
Yeah, the Washington Post did a story. Basically, there was a crazy spike in miscarriages, infant mortality, between the time the water was switched and I believe a year or two after that.
Yes, there was. And I really believe, I know, I don't have any proof because Hurley is not trying to, they're not trying to put it up in my paperwork or nothing. But like I said, this should follow us just like anything else goes up into our records through the hospital. This should be up in the records that, yes, this lady was drinking the contaminated water, and yes, this could have, but they don't even want to do that. But I know for a fact that it was the water, me consuming this water. If I would not have moved to Flint and I would have got pregnant, everything would have been all right. But me consuming this water and all this shit, the babies cannot live.
Well, let me give you a little behind the scenes. You probably don't even know this. So I had one outlet that was interested in publishing the piece. I'll say it, the Daily Beast. So the Daily Beast, you know, pretty well-known outlet. I think they're fairly establishment on politics. But anyway, they were interested in publishing the piece. But their main objection was me putting you in the story, not because they don't like you, but because, well, it's kind of speculative, you know, that just you trying to make it seem like she miscarried 4 babies in 2 years. You know, the doctor said it was age. So, and I said to him, so you just believe everything a doctor tells you?
Right.
And the doctors, I've talked to many residents, the doctors have basically been telling residents who are having kidney problems, liver problems, cognitive problems, it's not the lead. It's not the lead. So it seems to me like doctors here, I don't want to say all doctors are bad, but they've been very careful about not attributing illnesses to lead.
I agree. That's one reason why really I didn't even mess with Hurley. With the second pregnancy, I went all the way out to Grand Blanc. But still there, it was like they were not trying to say like this could be happening from the water crisis. They're not trying to say that. But of course they're not trying to say it because they're trying to say that the water here is fine. Bullshit. It's not fine. We're still struggling in Flint. They have cut off the source of us getting our water, which Governor Snyder, when he started the pods, he said that he would not stop the water until all of the infrastructure was fixed. And all of the infrastructure is not fixed, and they have closed down the pods. That is ridiculous. I don't see how the government, state, whoever is letting him do this.
And obviously, like, let's keep it real. It's not like these people around here are rolling in it financially to go buy stacks and stacks of bottled water now that the water pods have been shut down.
Right. No. It's ridiculous. I have to spend money for water now because the pods have closed and I can't even go nowhere to get water for me and my kids.
So how are you guys, you drinking from the tap with the filters? What are you guys doing?
No, I'm going buying water and we're still drinking bottled water. I will never drink this water ever again. I don't care in 2020 when they claim all of this, all the infrastructure and all that, 2025, I will never drink Flint's water ever again.
And, you know, obviously my report, if you haven't read it, the link is right there, goes really in depth at what I think was some really creative math they used and cherry pick science they used. You know, Mark Edwards, the Virginia Tech scientist, pretty much declared Flint's water normal compared to other cities by looking at 34 homes. There's basically 40,000 homes.
I believe that was bull too because Mark Edwards was out here with us Oh yeah, the water, they've been poisoned and all this. Now all of a sudden the water's fine. Yes, I know, because Governor Snyder is paying him now and he's getting money. So now all of a sudden the water is fine. Everything is it's all about the money. Money over lives, which is bull.
And, you know, I don't know, I don't have evidence that he's gotten money from the state, but I do have evidence he's gotten upwards of $2 million from the EPA. I mean, that's a lot of money. He says it's not going to his pocket, it goes into Virginia Tech. But I mean,
it sounds good. It sounds good. It's going into his pocket. He's another Governor Snyder. All the money's going into rainy day fund. It's going into his pockets also.
And, you know, it's interesting because the state of Michigan also said in their testing that we're finding, you know, levels under the EPA's, you know, allowable limit for six months, 2 consecutive 6-month periods. Yet, when all I got to do, you just Google online, I look at the testing that's still coming in from residents sending in samples, and you still see all these red lines with high levels of lead. So how could it be that citywide the water is totally safe, totally normal, and that's what he used as the decision to shut down the pods, yet residents who are still testing and sending it in, I've seen levels hundreds of parts above the limit. There's also, if you look at the map, there was a mapping done. You could type in your address if you had water tested, your zip code, and it will show you when was the last time your home was tested. It will show you what the lead levels were. There's still homes that were tested in 2016 and 17 with really, really high levels that the state never even went back to retest.
Right. That's why I say it's a bunch of bull crap.
And I mean, I could only talk like anecdotally, but I just had iced coffee today. Obviously, water's involved with that. It tasted disgusting. I mean, and my old cameraman, excuse me, Ty, when we were here last year, he drank water at the White Horse, the bar.
Ty's actually watching.
Oh, right. He spit it out. He spit it out. I mean, it tasted like chemicals.
I think up on the news, I want to say yesterday, they have a boil advisory, which boiling is not going to do shit but just bring all the bacteria and all that. So I don't know why they keep doing that. If the water is all right, why do we need to boil filtered water? Come on now. It doesn't make sense.
And that was Friday of last week. Friday, they put out a boil water advisory because basically a water main ruptured. And you're starting to see that in many other places in the city. The water mains are rupturing because of the damage from the river water that went down. So you have all these pipes that are still corroded. By the way, it just came out last week. They have 14,000 damaged lead service lines still underground. That's 15% more than they originally thought. So they're declaring the water safe, but they clearly don't know.
Not fixed all of the infrastructure or none of that. So how can you say that it's safe and you still have not gotten every house? They just went to go into my neighbors. They did my house, 2 months ago.
In terms of changing the lead service line?
Yes, from the street. I still got my pipes so corroded, but I do not trust them. I still believe there's 1,100 parts per billion of lead still going through my house. They only took it from the street.
And that's important because I talked to Harold Harrington. He's a plumber with the union here. Right. They're changing the lead service lines in the street. They're not fixing the interior plumbing, which is damaged.
So tell me, they're just moving it from the street, but what about all of the pipes and my water heater and all of that all of this lead done and everything else done ran through? What about that?
And I want to ask you, because you mentioned it's not just lead. They're finding bacteria. There's also other heavy metals.
Oh, I have over 80-something pages of everything that's in my water. Some of the stuff I can't even name. One of the things I looked up, they say that they use it for rat poison. Why is that in our water? Something using for rat poison? Why is that in my water? Ridiculous. So I know this water, me consuming this water, is what had me miscarry. Them babies could not live through all of the heavy metals, bacteria, lead, all of that. Them babies could not live, and I really do believe that I can never have kids again. But now I'm wondering, my daughter is 19. She doesn't have any kids. Will she be able to have kids?
Did she get her blood? Did she get her blood lead levels tested?
Yes, both of them. I had her and my son tested, and they were both at 5.0, which when it first came out, anything 5 and higher, they were saying was high levels. So that's when I let the schools know, look, they kept suspending him and all this. I'm like, y'all see that it's a problem. The first year he was only suspended like one time. The second year over 50 times, that's a big increase. Something you can't just keep suspending him like that. And it's like I took my son out of school because to me, for one, I really feel like they want all the African American up out of here. Kettering, all of them is taken over.
Kettering's the university.
Yes, the university, Kettering, Mott, all of them, they're taking over stuff, and I really just feel like they want all the African American so they can make this a college town, and move all the rich people in, and also they're like closing all the schools down, so it's like these kids can't even. It's like they're setting them up for the school to prison pipeline. These kids cannot go to learn. They're closing schools down. I think they're finna close. They only have 2 high schools open, which one of the high schools they're finna close down, and they're finna collide them together. Just imagine one high school got all of these gangs, and then it's different gangs, and y'all finna put all the gangs together. They're not gonna have nothing but a lot of killing going on in Flint. And as you know, there's been a lot of that going on, but they've been so busy talking about how the water's fine and Trump that they haven't even been talking about the killings that's been going on here.
And I want to point out, you said your son went from like one suspension in school to 50. Some of the highest crime areas in the country, the research shows that most of those areas have lots of lead. And lead affects your cognitive ability. It affects your mood. I've talked to people here in Flint that it's not their fault, but they go from 0 to 180 in about a minute because it affects your mood swings and things like that.
Took my daughter because she has epilepsy where she has seizures. But I took her back to her neurologist. Like I said, we came up out of Hurley, so we're starting to go out towards Grand Blanc. And I got to find the paperwork because I don't be knowing these doctors' words, but she has something in her brain. It's like mesosclerosis, where the normal brain, it's real thick. Hers is real thin, and it's a lot smaller than the normal brain. So I'm wondering, could that be coming from everything that we've exposed? You never know what is going where through our bodies, everything that we consumed.
And obviously, lead is contributing to cognitive problems. People have brain fog. I talk to people that it takes a while for them to process thoughts here in Flint because of the lead. So yeah, it could cause a lot of things. And I've talked to people who, are kind of like middle-aged white dudes that have a temper, but like that temper is now much, much shorter fuse because of lead poisoning. Talk about you, just personally. I'm not a woman, but I know women that have had miscarriages, and some have even that I know have had to give birth stillborn.
Right.
On its own, that's a devastating thing. But when you lose 4 babies in 2 years, tell me about the toll that's taken on you.
Really, it has really taken a great toll on my kids. I have to stay strong, and I just can. I can just let the world know, because this could be coming to anywhere, anywhere somebody lives. This could be coming to them, and they just need to be aware. And also the people here in Flint, all of the females, because I am not the only one that had a miscarriage. When I was in the emergency room, there was plenty of pregnant women talking about pain and everything else. So I know there's more than me that went through what I'm going through. So that's why I keep talking about it.
And call me old-fashioned, but I kind of think when American citizens are poisoned and then basically left to die, that's kind of a big story. But all I see in the media is like Roseanne said something racist and her show got canceled, or Trump tweeted something stupid, which is every hour, or Russia and all this stuff. I'm not saying Rosa things is not important, but it seems to me like this whole gotten by the majority of the media, and by extension, when the media doesn't cover it, people just think, oh, that's probably fixed now.
Yes, I agree. Everyone that's come here, they've come, they left, they're talking they're gonna do. They raise money. I don't know where the money goes to because we don't see it, and then they're gone. Has not said anything about Flint in a long time besides the water's better, which it's not.
And can you kind of talk about, I mean, Flint, besides the water, is a really big example of kind of just like when you take a demolition truck to the middle class. Like Flint used to be American middle class, suburbia, and then all the investment.
Schools and stuff here. I think Flint, the education, everything was high. Flint. Now it has, I mean, it's like almost like a ghost town. There's people that have left, but then there's people, they're not leaving. They've been here for years. And it's crazy that because we don't want to pay for poison water, you're going to try to take somebody's house. That's ridiculous.
That's another thing that not getting much media attention, but essentially the city, I don't know how it happened, but basically promised that they would have 70% collection rate on the water bills. And they're not getting 70% because a lot of people
not paying. I refuse to pay for poison. We paid for poison all of that time that they were saying the water was fine. Now that we know that we're being poisoned, do you really think somebody is going to pay for poison? And then now we have to buy water also? I'm not going to pay 2 different water bills. That's like paying another water bill. That is ridiculous.
And they're basically threatening, and in many cases sending in the mail, threatening to put a tax lien on people's homes and potentially evict them if they don't pay for the water bill, which is kind of like saying, like, you know, in America, we poison you and then, you know, you pick up the tab.
Right. That's literally...
have you been threatened with a tax lien?
No, I rent. So if they do threaten me with a tax lien, it'll be going to my landlord. So I don't care because I rent. But like I told him, I refuse to pay a penny. I'm not paying for the water. I don't drink it. I'm not paying for it.
And talk to me about, you know, in Flint, there is a good amount of activism, but it seems like I've been here. This is my 10th time here. And it seems like you go to things and it's kind of the same people. Folks are going to Lansing this week as part of the Poor People's Campaign. Those protests have been going on around the city. But it seems like a lot of people in Flint, because they're just so beaten by what's happened here. It's now 4 years after they switched this, and the pipes aren't totally changed. You have people's, I assume your medical bills keep stacking up. The government's not paying for your medical bills, all of them.
No, but I know a few people. I know me and my kids had, because of exposure and all of my activism and fighting, we have extended Medicaid to where they get a little bit more, they get a little bit more stuff done. Like my daughter, Genesee Mental Health, and so does my son. They come through and they work with them over their behavior and stuff like that. My daughter, she started going through depression and a whole lot. She doesn't even trust the bottled water. She thinks that they're putting the Flint River water inside the bottled waters.
There's a lot of just anxiety and, you know, fear in residents here because you've been lied to for a long time.
Yes, there is. A lot of people, I think, that they're just giving up because it's been, like you said, it's been over 4 years now, and we're still on bottled water, and that is ridiculous.
Well, you're not anymore. They shut them down. So
right, buy water. So we're still. I refuse to drink out that faucet. Me and my kids will not drink that water ever again.
And tell me, you know, when your kids and when you, whatever, are you having any issues with rashes? Or because I've talked to people that they're in the shower and their eyes start rashes.
Well, me and my daughter, we don't even take baths anymore like we used to. We don't sit in the water no more because of all, like I said, everything that's in my water, I refuse to let sit in that water. So we take like not even a 5-minute shower. So it's like we're in and out. So I can't even relax and take a 45-minute shower like I would normally do because of all the heavy carcinogens and heavy metals and stuff and bacteria that's in the water that they're not even talking about. Oh, the lead is fine. Okay, but what about all these other heavy metals and carcinogens that's in the water also, and bacteria? The water is not fine.
And also, fine, the EPA doesn't even have any standards for bathing and showering. Like drinking water, they have a standard, 15 parts per billion, which frankly is kind of arbitrary anyway. Most say 0 is the standard. But for showering, like there could be lead in the shower, there could be other things in the shower. So you could have 2 parts per billion in your shower, and that could be a big problem. But the EPA says, well, showering and bathing is safe because we don't have any standards or measurements.
That's true. I don't. I've dealt with the EPA, DEQ, CDC. I don't trust none of them. All of them, their reports on my lead was different. I think they found 0. EPA was like 3, DEQ was 7, but 0. The lead didn't just disappear. But then I had Scott Smith and Mark Ruffalo. Scott Smith came in and he tested my home, and it was 1,100 parts per billion, down everything that's in my water. So I trust them. I don't trust the EPA, DEQ, none of them. They lie.
You think they're kind of like cherry picking their testing to find lower levels?
Yes, I do. I really do. Flint, we still need help here. This water is far from fine.
Can you kind of talk about outside of the water? Obviously, that's the main problem. But talk about more, like, we went downtown. It's nice. Like, there's a couple nice places, but it's a ghost town. There's, like, nobody.
Yes.
Bars closed. Bars and restaurants seem to close down early. It seems to me like you start seeing a little gentrification. They're trying to make a couple blocks really nice, but they leave the rest of the city to kind of rot.
That's what it is. And like I said, the majority of where the rest of the city is riding at is the majority is African American. People can say this is not what's the word I want to say? That it's not like racial, but really want the African Americans out of here. What they thought when they poisoned us was that, they're going to, like I said, for one, it's low poverty here. We can't just pack up and leave. How? We don't have the money. So people is not leaving, and then they're not paying for the water. So that's why they're all pissed. But it's just some bull. It's some bull. It's really money over lives to me.
And your children, obviously, your daughter has the epilepsy. Your son has had behavioral stuff, but this is a lot for children to deal with the last couple of years. I mean, having to like jump in and out of a shower. A lot of children,